Welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live programs. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Savage, and I will be your host for today's show. Today, we will be exploring the main topic for today's episode is think before you act, as it relates to our lives, our experiences, and anywhere from the lens of musician, artist, manager, performer, and all the way down to eye level of the crude and unfiltered human being. What do you think about? And why is it important? These are some big questions we're asking here. Let's see what answers we get. I never know what kind of stuff we might unearth in this show. So, there is no one-size-fits-all answer, and this could leave you with more questions than simple answers, but it's more real that way, and that's what we're here for. And check out this little preview to recap our last installment. Taking it in stride.
For me, this is a very difficult topic, and that's why I chose it. I don't take anything in stride,
Really?
so I thought it would be good. Listen to my own words. What I do is I watch these shows later on, and I go, "Oh, yeah, you should do that."
Really take that guy's advice. Yes.
He goes, "Why so serious? Why so serious?" You know that line?
Yeah.
I don't know
And
how
you
he
sound,
talks.
you sound like him, yeah.
Why is everything so serious? Why do people take themselves so seriously? So taking yourself seriously is better than taking it in stride, but it's not. So take it in stride. It's a good idea, but it's very difficult to do. You see what I'm saying? I'm speaking from experience.
How have you
Should
done
we?
it? How have you-
Why
yeah.
should we? Because it's good for us. When
yeah.
you're raising a child, you just want to do it perfectly, and you want to make. You find out when they're 12, you failed, basically.
Is that how it goes?
It's right around 11 or 12 where you go,
Right.
I didn't sign up for this. But they're all at attention. That's kind of like me. And so the guy said, "Man, that's going to take a lot off your life." So I said, "What?"
Oh.
I said, "Yeah, haven't you heard when someone is that meticulous and they can't stand anything out of place, it takes seconds off your life." I think my opinion at this point is it can save your life to take things in stride. Be meticulous where meticulousness is required, but don't do it so much that it shaves time off your life. I'm saying take things, balance. It comes to the word balance. Life needs balance. You don't need to be so vehement about things. This has to be this way. Things don't need to be just right. I think things need to be balanced and in the vicinity of right. I would say take things in stride in another area other than your health, Just right all the time? Yeah, in a piece of music. Okay, I can see that.
Should we change the name of the show to Jack Price's Just Right?
Yeah, I think
Or
Jack
About
Price
Right.
Jack Price is just right, just like I love that. That's a
Right
good
there,
one,
yeah.
Ding dong.
And that was our last recap episode. You can check us out on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Alignable, all of the major streaming platforms. Now, today I am excited to be joined live with co-host and celebrated partner in crime, Dick otherwise known as Jack Price. And just to give a little introduction, formerly known as Dick and now known as Jack Price, he began his career in artist management in response to his own career as an RCA recording artist after winning first prize in the 50th anniversary Nuremberg competitions, as well as being known as the crazy pianist who premiered The Right for Solo Piano. Welcome to the show, Jack Price.
I should tell you, rattle off all the other names I'm known by.
All the other names, your
I
whole
have many
treasure
names.
trove.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a treasure chest of useless names.
That could be a
It's
whole
like
episode.
yeah, Just like my treasure chest of useless knowledge, I have a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Do you like my sculpture garden here?
yeah, very pretty sculptures behind you. Do you want to introduce those a little bit? Your sculpture garden that you've got?
Oh, sure. The one on the far right is the piano. That's by Michael McLeaf. The reason I put it up there is because he liked.
Oh, yeah.
He liked the way I played, so he made me a sculpture out of. He usually makes sculpture out of nuts and bolts and wrought iron and all this
Pieces
stuff.
of wire and
and kitchen utensils. Anyway, so he did that, and the other two are by Talik Winter. The one on the far back is way back on the other side. I can't find my directions here. It's called Connection, the one that's next to the piano, and this one is called Outer People. That's right by my head.
Outer People.
And those are by Talik Winter. He's a sculptor in Great Britain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe he's also like a member of the Royal British Artists Guild or Society, or
something like that.
Do we want to I think we have a clip that we can feature of Talik Winter's work, so let's check that out right here.
Sure.
Connection to me is, to my understanding, is like a rough diamond waiting to be polished to show its real facets. People look at connection in many ways than just communicating between each other, also connecting to animals, to nature, to the universe, to the stars. We connect in many ways than one as people. And to me, that's the uniqueness of the word connection. Art to me is like oxygen to a person. It's like water to fish. It's been embedded in me since childhood. Ripples of life is life itself. We're born, we live, and we pass it on to the next generation. To me, that's the ultimate ripples of life.
All right.
Okay.
And that was featuring one of Price Attractions' visual artists, Talik Winter. He creates many beautiful works of art and many sculptures, and you can see some in the background. If you want to see more, check us out. Check out his work on his Instagram and also on priceattractions.com. And I think the clip kind of is a little it's got some connection to our topic today, which is, or some of our subtopics, think before you act, and what do you think about, and why is it important? So let's move right into what is behind door number 1.
Oh, okay. So think
Right.
before you act is kind of, I had this whole thing prepared actually in my mind. It's an extension of stop, look, and listen. So you could say, like the last episode or a couple episodes before, stop, look, listen, and think.
Yeah, that was episode 9. Stop, look, and
That's
listen.
the missing. Yeah.
Oh, and think.
That's the missing link. Get it? I'm a poet and you don't know it.
Wow.
So I've
Great
been
rhymes.
rhyming a lot lately. I should be a rap artist, right?
Yeah, I think that's your next thing.
That's my, yeah, I mean, what's the next thing?
I think you've got it. Yeah, you've got the tone. And
I've got it. I really got it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the thing is,
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Yeah.
well, okay, but before you act, you should think. That's the whole idea. But before you think, you have to stop what you're doing, look around where you are, see your kind of vicinity or in your mind, not necessarily the vicinity you can see, but where you are in your mind, and then listen to whatever needs to, like, let's say you're listening to someone's advice from years ago. I often do
Right.
that. I go,
Oh.
yeah, he said that to me, and
Yeah.
then think about what you're going to say or do. So think
Yeah.
before you act, but also think before you say. Okay? Now, I'm the worst in these areas, and that's why I'm an expert in this area.
Right.
It's like the disciples of Jesus, right? They're all total idiots, and that's why he chose them.
Yeah, if you were if you were so prodigiously talented in all of these things, you wouldn't even know where to begin to try to teach someone else because,
Right. That's it. The learning process is what has to kick in. And for a teacher, there's no better student than the idiots, Not really. In my opinion,
Yeah.
I only enjoy teaching very gifted people. That may sound kind of, not so nice, but I'm not one of those teachers that goes, oh yeah, I have so much to impart to you, even though you're not going to really hear much of it. I want them to hear it, So stop, look, listen, think before you say and act. So let's get that down.
Right.
Stop, look, listen, think, all 4 of those before you say anything or before you act upon anything. Now, that's a big concept. I don't know if it's ever been put to you that way, but...
No, never. Not in that order.
I know, I just thought of it. No.
Oh, all right,
No,
all right.
just kidding. No,
That's the show, everybody. Yeah.
No, that is the show. Essentially, we're done.
Yeah.
So, what was the door? What do you think about?
What do you think about what does that, mean when it comes to think before you act?
About what you think about what pertains to your next spoken word or act. For example, let's put it into management terms or musical terms. Let's say I'm talking to a very important conductor, okay? Like very important. Someone who I really respect, which is not too often. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, well, I have a lot of conductor jokes. If you'd like to entertain them, we can have.
Yeah,
them.
we have
That's
enough
a
for
good-
many seasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, many seasons of. We can do a whole season on viola and conductor jokes. Okay, so here's the deal. If I'm going to talk to somebody like, let's say, Eric Leinsdorf, he's not here anymore, so we can talk about him, or Sergio Commissiona, or somebody like that, or Lauren Mazel. Everybody knows him. Right?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so if you're going to talk to Lauren, well, I happen to know what he's like. You should really think about what you're about to say, because he gets, if I might say so, even he might have some relatives that are alive. But I remember talking to him in the Zell Library. You know where that is? George Zell's library is in Severance Hall, where the Cleveland Orchestra plays. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's within the hall, and the hall is fabulous, by the way. Anybody that should go to Cleveland should at least tour it, if not play in it. It's really fun to play in. It's gorgeous.
And tour it, yeah.
Yeah, it's Severance Hall. So anyway, in Severance Hall, there's a place called the Zell Library, and that's where we would meet, on several occasions. I actually took some lessons with Mazel. And
really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he would call me friend. He said, friend, and I said, I do have a name, it's Richie, and he goes, friend. He goes, you got to think about what you're going to say to someone like Mazel, because it's like a real complicated brain. I'm not going to go into his weaknesses or strengths. I'm just going to say that he's rather complex. And so you should have it together and well thought out before you utter a word to him. But it's not that he's arrogant or unfriendly. He's very friendly, and he's not arrogant at all. He just comes off that way because conducting to him is so easy in terms of the technical, the ictus, all that stuff with their hands. And, I'm not saying music making. We'll stay away from that subject, but just conducting. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how to get it pretty effortlessly. And so if you're going to talk to him about that, you better have your blank together, So think before you say something to Lauren Mazel, or think before you do anything with Lauren Mazel, or think before you go to dinner with Lauren Mazel. Anything with Lauren Mazel is going to require some thought. And if you're talking to a country bumpkin, then maybe not so much, then, you don't have to think so much. Say, hey, how's it going? But you don't say, how's it going to Mazel? You say, Maestro, how are you? And,
and go from there.
Did you have a nice breakfast?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, from an outsider perspective and just watching, I've been to his concerts before at Castleton. Yeah, he seems very almost cold and clinical in some ways.
Yes.
Very put together in that way and intimidating even, right? But it's interesting that you say you have some insight on that, on him specifically.
He's not intimidating, actually. Right before the last movement of the Prokofiev Third in the concert, he leaned over the piano and goes, do you want to go faster? And and that was not what I wanted him to do. What I meant in the rehearsal is to be more intense in the final tempo change, which is boom, 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 boom. Yeah, and then it gets faster and faster, really. My idea of the coda is that it just drives right to the end.
Yeah.
So when you play that very last C major thing, it's just like you can't go any faster, kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, so
but he's not everybody... back to topic. He is the example of someone that you would not want to, start saying whatever comes to mind. You
don't want to piss him off. At least that was my impression. It's like he's a little terse, if you know the word, like Prokofiev.
Yes.
He's a little. He can easily be bored, for one thing. This is a person who has quite a sharp intellect. I would imagine his IQ is fairly high, or was. And so you don't go up to him and say, Mr. Mazel, can I do your pension fund benefit at Cleveland next September? You don't say things like that.
Yeah.
Because that is suggesting that you be the soloist for the biggest concert of the year. Okay? So see what I'm saying? In other words, think before you talk. Because once you've uttered the word, it's in the universe. For example, what my father used to say, and I've said this, I think, on a show, once a word remains in your mouth, you're the master. Once a word leaves your mouth, you're a slave. Okay? That's a very important axiom to live by.
I feel like I've heard that. Something like that.
Once a word remains in your mouth, you're the master. Not a master, but you're the master of that situation. Once a word leaves your mouth, you're a slave, meaning one of many. You're a slave to what you just said.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, and I don't often, by the way,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I live by all of these things, because I don't. I offend these axioms more than I respect them.
How
I think
often?
Often. Rules are made to be broken. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's not just a facetious comment. That's why they make rules, because they know people. I mean, look, in the Bible, I shouldn't say this. I'm not going to say that one. In Leviticus, there's a commandment that priests are not supposed to do something. You can use your imagination, but in fact, they do it. So why was the axiom or rule or a commandment made? Because they do it and they consistently offend the rule. That's why it says rules are meant to be broken. They don't want you to break the rules, but they know you're going to. You see?
I see what you're saying.
So yeah, it's.
But so
No, I'm just kidding.
So do you,
Yeah.
so you regularly offend these axioms or rules, as you say, but yeah, how do you?
I tell people, I tell people to, for example, never. My big thing is if you don't have something good to say, don't say it. Well, I do that all the time.
Yeah, you do. But do you think about this later?
Competitions.
Right. Do you think about the rules later? Do you think about, what do you think before you act or stop, look, and listen? Does that come up later on or during sometimes? Yeah.
No, I come up with the axiom or the rule after I've made the offense. That's the whole problem. Like we were in a contest the other day and I was absolutely, I think you were here in the back. I was absolutely outrageous. The last audition.
Oh, the auditions? Yeah.
Yeah, the last audition.
Yeah.
I can't even remember exactly what went on, but I disagreed with two of the jury members vehemently.
Oh,
because
yes.
Because I thought the player, to be perfectly honest, I'm usually the one on the offensive. I was on the defensive this time because she played very well. And, it's not like she was the most profound in the world or she didn't make a mistake, but it was very proficient.
Yes.
Playing, it was just okay. Right. And they just crucified her, and I held their feet to the ground.
Oh.
Yeah, to the fire. And I said, look, you're kind of being, we've had worse go through these passageways and have said worse and done worse and executed worse. And this is a professor that teaches her instrument or his instrument. So, it wasn't that kind of a performance. And this great pontificating came out of them. And I said,
I recall Gail.
This is all baloney. But but wait a minute. I have a point to this, Jennifer.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that, but I did. You see, that thing. I did say it. Now,
you did.
What's worse? Letting it all hang out and telling the truth, that at least your truth, or let's homogenize it and keep it all nice and even, and it was fine.
Just play along
what
with
you
it.
said, play along. No, it's not my style. So I think what we have to say here is, if you can possibly do it, stop, look, listen, and think before you say or act. That's the rule. If it's at all possible in your constitution to do those things, then do it. I just can't.
Wherever you can. Oh, I'm sure you have, though. Have you not? I'm sure you've caught yourself, right?
Oh, I've caught myself in front of conductors all my life.
It's always you and conductors. Yeah,
it's always me and conductors. If you talk to XYZ, I've played a million of them, both very famous and not so famous and very unknown. I've played with many levels, shall we say. And I turn to them all the time like this. They're usually here, right to my left. The piano's here, and I go, you can't conduct, can you? Now, I don't say that, But that's exactly what I'm thinking most of the time, unless I'm with a great conductor. They all know this. I mean, every conductor I've ever played with, they go, I know what he's thinking, you know.
Okay.
And by the way, I was invited back, believe it or
But-
not. They were,
But
they-
you do
they
catch
like-
yourself, especially in those situations, soloing with those conductors. That's great.
Yes, but now I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you a story that you
Okay.
will say, wow, this can only come from the mouth that roared. Okay, so here we go. My very last week of my career, I played a concert somewhere with some orchestra in some state in the United States before I
right.
was about to record Brahms 2 in Poland. This is the very last week of my, my career. And so I prepared Brahms 2 and it was totally ready to go. I go to this town. I knew the orchestra was going to be bad, but I never expected it to be this bad. So I walk in, the piano's unplayable, the stool won't even go up or whatever. So I heard them tuning and I thought, this is not going to work. So I let them, unfortunately, play for a while, like the opening horn solo. Then I came in, and then I did my cadenza. Then they did the tutti. At the end of the tutti, I didn't even come in with those crashing F major chords. I said, okay, I'm going back to the hotel to have some tacos. Now I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's what I had to say to them. But you know what I really did? I made a beeline. The minute I got out of the hall, I went back to the hotel. My bags were not even unpacked. I went straight for the airport and left town. And wait a minute, let me finish. I will have you know that I collected most of my fee because in the contract, they violated the contract. First of all, they picked a piece they could not play at all, and they couldn't. Second of all, they were totally unprepared, underpracticed. The conductor didn't know the score, and he's ordering the Mount Everest of piano concertos. Well, granted, my manager at the time said I needed to try out the Brahms before recording it with Novak. Okay, so the Brahms was on the ticket, but I could have played another, a Mozart concerto or something that they could have maybe plowed through. I mean,
Easily,
it wouldn't
much
have been
more
too
doable.
good. Well,
Right.
it's more doable, but it would have been out of tune and scratchy and horrible. But at least they could play the notes. Whereas in this, the Brahms was beyond recognition. That's why I left the concert hall. So I said, I'll see you guys tomorrow after the tacos, right? Well, I ate the tacos and I went straight to the airport. I won't tell you which one. I'm being very careful here. But these people know who they are if they're watching, and I'm sure they're not. But anyway, if they are, they'll know that I was totally prepared. They admitted that to the management. They gave most of the feedback in, not all of it, because it doesn't call for all of it when you leave town. But that's what I did. Now, I ask you, was that the right thing to do? Well, first of all, the circumstances, and much of this, you have to consider the circumstances. I was done with orchestras and conductors as of that engagement, other than the one in Poznan that I was going to play with a colleague that's fabulous and the orchestra's terrific. I had recorded Brahms 1 the year before. I was going to record Brahms 2. So I knew what I was going to get. They're great, no problem. Novak's a great conductor. But this other conductor, of course, fell short. And so
This
I
was
just
the
said-
incident that just kind of made you fed up or done with.
No.
Or
I was
what?
done 5 years earlier with a
Oh.
similar incident in another town with Concerto Number 2 of Liszt, which was my first performance. It went great, but no thanks to the conductor. The orchestra was pretty good, but I decided then not to play anymore, and it took me 5 years later to retire. But that is not what this story is about. This story is about stop, look, and listen and think. Okay? I did all those things, and I thought, and I said, there's no way this is going to be put together. So I left town. So I actually did what I'm professing others to do. It's just that my result was not what most people would do in the final analysis.
Right.
They wouldn't
Right.
leave town. They
The
would
act
plow
of
through-
leaving. Yeah.
Oh, they would plow through that concerto and just make a mess of it, and the experience for the audience would be
Why didn't you
wonderful,
do
but-
that? Why didn't you feel you could do that? Go through with that.
Because that was the last concert. I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to play my last concert with a deadbeat orchestra and deadbeat conductor and a deadbeat whatever. I just said, that's it. I've had enough. And then I went on to Poland and had a great time. But the point is, the career was over. I came back from Poland. I quit cold turkey and just concentrated on management. So the reason I did it was because I could. There was no worry of a re-engagement or my future, or where my bread and butter was going to be made or my next meal was going to be had. Everything was fine because I was turning into, a manager.
You're moving on to your next, stage.
Yeah. So the thing, well, it turns out I shouldn't have done it, but because I'm going to play in the future a little bit, but it doesn't really matter because it's out of generosity and necessity, not out of needing a career. It's just that in
different purposes.
That's another thing is this stop, look, and listen and think before you act. It depends. See, if you remember, we use that word a lot. Depends on the circumstances. Okay.
For sure.
Let's go to door number 2.
Let's take a quick break here. That was an amazing story. But let's take a break with a little clip of music that is straight from our JPIR archives, and we hope you enjoy. All right, and that was Ravel's Concerto. We hope you enjoyed that. And check out more clips. We feature them in between, just to break things up a little bit. But for now, let's move right on to what is behind door number 2. Yes. Why is it important? Correct. So think before you act. But why is it important? Why do you do that?
Well,
for you,
that's
everybody.
Complicated too. So you can for sure say with that last story, it's not that important because you're going to do whatever you want to do. It's whimsical with me. It's like, oh, I feel like not playing that concert. Well, that's the only time I ever did that in my whole career. I've never canceled a concert. I've never walked out on an orchestra, but that was just the bottom of the barrel.
Like, how bad does it have to get for you? I mean, you've never done this before, ever, in your career.
I have never done it.
Ever.
It was the penultimate concert. Before the final. I played a concert in Poland and recorded the next day, and it was over. So in other words, it was the penultimate performance engagement. And I just, quite honestly, I just had it with bad situations, bad planes, bad automobiles, bad managers, bad executive directors, bad piano tuners, bad pianos, bad conductors. It was just enough bad that I just said, okay, forget it. I'm going to be with somebody in a week that I like. So this is the end of the career, and I don't care what they think.
Was it
Now-
was it purely because the orchestrist and the conductor could not
Oh yeah, it was.
do the piece even a scrap of justice? Was there,
Why wouldn't I play it? I enjoy playing. I love playing that concerto, especially 1 and 2 Brahms. I would have stayed and played if it was at all playable. It was going to be a crucifixion. It was going to be painful. So, I can't imagine that it wouldn't have been painful for everybody because,
right.
but then again, it's me and, I'm a little,
Okay.
exaggerate at times and, that's that sort of thing. But the point is, for me, it was painful, and that's why I did that. But what was the door?
Why is it important?
It's
think before you
important
act. Yep.
because you have to be true to yourself. That's why it's important. And most people were expecting a different answer there, I'm sure. See, when I pose that question, why is it important? They think I'm going to say, oh, it's because I need a re-engagement, or it's important because my career depends on it.
Because of some external motivation.
Yeah, it depends on it because what are they going to think of me?
Yeah, what are the other people going to think? Yeah.
At that point in my career, which was the end, the penultimate end, the moment before the moment of truth, there was nothing to lose. It was absolutely a selfish act. So I was true to myself because I said, I'm done with this. I can't believe my very last concert or second to last concert is going to be a painful experience again. So I said, forget it. Forget it. I'm not interested in making music with a high school band. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I did play the Grieg once with a wind band. I played the first movement in high school, in my high school, Saguaro High School in Phoenix, Arizona. I did play the Grieg with a high school band once, and that was quite an experience in itself. But anyway, but then I didn't know anything, and I just did it. I didn't complain,
Right. So it was important. Why is it important to think before you act? It's because be true to yourself and what is important to you.
Yeah, I think it's important to think before you say or act, because what you say or what act you perform is what is going to be remembered. So you better say what you want to say. And here's what I wanted to say at that last concert. I wanted to say to the conductor, how dare you program this piece knowing full well who was coming to play? He knew who was coming to play. It's not like I was some babe in the woods, by then I was 50. That's when I retired, and I was an established performer, and they knew how, you do that maybe with some, goofball, but you're not going to do that to me, or you're going to get a reaction, and they surely did.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was within my legal rights. The proof's in the pudding. I got my fee, basically. I mean, didn't get all of it. It's not required. But anyway, the point is, what is the point? The point
Why is it important?
To say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you do that, you're always thinking before you utter a word or you act an act. You enact an act. Before any motion, before even at the piano, think before you start, let's say, something like the opening of Beethoven First Concerto. Think. What are you going to do there? That's a really very tricky spot. Everybody plays that very straight, da ya da 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 da. When in fact it's a very arioso kind of opening. It's very improvisatory and should be played very freely, in my opinion, before you strike the real tempo, which is a few bars later. When you go there, you're in tempo. But when you're alone, it's moronic to try to keep it in the tempo that you and the conductor established from the tutti. It's not possible. It is not possible. Yet everybody I know plays that in dull, strict time according to what they're going to do later in the piece. It's an intro. It's an intro, and Beethoven is completely improvising there. Completely. Now, you can say that's up for debate, but if you analyze the music in a Schenkerian way or in any other way, you're going to find that it is an intro. and it has nothing to do with the body of the concerto. Sorry, I'm getting a little too excited here. With
Yeah.
the body of the concerto that follows. It's meant to be a precursor. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
if you're doing
Okay.
the let's say the slow movement of the Beethoven Fourth Concerto, ba-dum, ba-dum, da-da-dum, ba-dum. You know, the orchestra has this very determined orchestral part, and the pianist comes in like this heavenly creature in E minor, right? You know, just
Uh-huh. Right.
these statements that are almost godlike, divine.
Yeah.
You know?
Divine. Yeah.
It's a totally different opening. It's almost stoic. It's almost,
Yeah.
you know, the second movement of the Beethoven Fourth is almost holy, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This is
it's
totally
elevated
different
in
than the
that way.
opening of, yeah. I mean, you don't really fool with it too much, but yet it has to sound fresh and alive and very pensive, very thoughtful, you know,
Very.
almost mysterious.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you've got to
Right.
think before you do anything, meaning if I'm going to create a mood here, what do I do? You've got to think about that before you don't just plunge into it.
Yeah, you really
That's
gotta
what I'm
clear
saying.
your mind of any other, distractions and other, runaway thoughts and
other versions of what you've heard. Like, let's say you heard Misha Dictor play that concerto. Get it out of your mind. It's got to be your idea. That's why it's important. Okay, why?
because
is it
if you do
important?
that, you'll be true to yourself, and then therefore, in this piano performance example, then also true to your own artistic expression.
Yeah, that's
well.
why in a
Yeah.
competition
That's
you
why
should
it's
always
important.
play. Yes, in a competition you should always play the way you play. Don't play the way you think the jury wants to hear you play.
Right. I think that's
that
another.
never
That's the
works.
issue with competitions, right? Everyone's playing what they think the jury or what the competition wants. The competition itself, like the big name competition. How do I play so that the competition will like me, or the jury, or the judges, or the audience will like me? But okay. I think we are running out of time here, but I want to thank you so much, Richie, Jack Price, for being with us, and I think this was an awesome thing to hear from you. Think before you act. It was really awesome getting your thoughts on how you navigate that. So, thank you so much. There we go. There's the audience as well. Okay, so let's move on. Time is right. We got to go here. Let's take a moment here to thank our partners and sponsors, of which there were many. I mean, from Boulder Symphony to Cairo, Egypt Opera Orchestra to Colburn Schools, and many, all sorts of different music arts and organizations from all over the world, and constantly joining us along the way. Thank you guys so much. We're very sincerely grateful to have you along with us for the journey. And also want to mention we are streaming on all the major platforms, Facebook, Vimeo, find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, even Twitch. Check us out on whatever your favorite platform may be. And big shout out to the production team. Today's broadcast was powered by Krisztian Palagyi, directing behind the scenes. Couldn't have done it without any of you, and we're all very grateful, without which this broadcast would not have been possible. So with that, that is all we've got for you today. This has been Jack Price is Right. I'm your host, Jennifer Savage, and I hope you've gotten a little something out of it. I know I did. See you next week.